Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, Penrite Oil, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm Eggs. Hello and welcome to another interesting episode of Classic Restos. But before I go any further, it's thanks to the continued support of the people that help to make Classic Restos happen each and every week. It's thanks to Shannons. Ask about multi-policy discounts and sign up for the Shannons Club. Call 134646 for a quote and see more at shannons.com.au. For oils, coolants, additives and technical assistance, Oil Right, use Penrite. And Hare and Forbes has the range. Buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. This unassuming shed on the outside depicts the meaning of never judge a book by its cover. But in this case, it's never judge a shed by its doors. This is an exciting episode. I am in Newcastle, New South Wales, and I consider this region as the front door to you at home. Whether it be around Newcastle or the north coast and inland of New South Wales, now watching on station 4Me here in Australia. It's a private car collection, open occasionally to the public, and there's more chrome and bling and plenty of 1950s wing to keep you occupied. Welcome to the Lost in the 50s American Car Museum. Good old Newcastle, New South Wales, just west of the CBD, is a plain shed with no frills on the outside, but when you step inside, you'll be thrown into a totally different perspective. This is what it's all about. This is a local, first-class example of our hobby. There are vehicles here that are bone stock Ridgy-Didge original, and there's the ones that have had some sweat thrown in and have been restored. Glenn and Kelly Jennings are behind these cars. They import them and in realistic terms save their lives in preservation. Sure, there's the odd one for sale. The collection lends itself to open days, and not only will you be gobsmacked by the cars, there's also the diner upstairs and that classic 50s feel, encapsulated by over 3,000 memorabilia items from the bygone era. Inside here is wow, wow and more cubic wow. In fact, if you tried to add up all the cubic capacity in here, you'd have to turn the page. Over 90 cars, and if they all started at once, the gobs of cubic atmosphere that they would suck would leave us all gasping for air.
Lost in the 50s American Classic Car Museum. I often get asked, where did it all begin? And to be honest, I go back to the same thing every time. I was a matchbox car kid. I grew up with the Lesney cars. I played under the house. I fulfilled my dreams playing with Lesney matchbox cars. And from that, it planted a seed that years later would come to fruition through a simple thing as driving a wedding car for a good mate of mine. It just happened to be a Corvette. So my love affair with the American cars had begun. It started a fire deep in the belly, and I was obsessed. I use that word with a grin because that's the truth of the matter. To collect so much Americana over 30 years is an obsession. It's a very good obsession. It's one I love to have and love to share. But the interesting part of the museum and how it came about to be was that we had our cars and our memorabilia hidden, literally in 4 different sheds. And I said to my wife one day, sooner or later we have to make a big decision. Do we find somewhere to put all this stuff on display, or somewhere where we can access it and enjoy it ourselves, or do we sell it off? It wasn't a hard decision. So we went looking and we found the right building and the right price, and it's in our hometown, not 5 minutes from home. And then the fun started. Over a 2-year period, retrofitting the building, understanding how it was going to lay out. And ironically, when I look back, the very first pictures in my mind of how I wanted the museum to look is what you see today. So Fletch, you might ask, why an American-themed museum in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia? How does that come about? That period of time, we call it Lost in the 50s, that period of time in America was an amazing short time capsule when humanity and the world was at its best. look at the cars and look at what they portray. They are the evidence of somebody's ego and somebody's time of life where everything was wonderful, a period of enchantment almost. The cars have bling and chrome, and they are pieces of art. They are pieces of jewellery to enjoy. And that signifies America in the 50s coming out of the recession, out of the wars. The America that I know from the 50s is a happy time. And the word happy is the best word you can use. Happy Days, the TV show. Happy in the fact that look at the colours on the cars, look at the toys. Everything was done bright and colourful and cheery, whereas today things tend to be a lot more dull and more conservative. So it's a time that's long gone, it's an era that's so long gone, and it's just a humbling and warm feeling to be able to tie it all in here. And for people to come and experience it and be part of it, you guys, Classic Restos, and your shows are the mainstream of spreading the gospel. I'm a big fan of the legacy of what we do and what we leave for the next generation. Shows like Classic Restos, without you guys, it's unfortunately a dying breed. We need to constantly push the envelope, bring new people in, bring the next generation in, interest the teenagers and the kids of today into what we have here. So come to the museum and have that educational experience. And I hope that when those kids leave here, that they walk away with a seed planted like I had. So that when they get to 18 or 19, instead of looking at a mainstream car, they may think, gee, I'd love to buy an old classic. Job done.
I hope you're really enjoying this week's episode of Lost in the 50s Classic Car Museum, and you're seeing it first on Classic Restos. Back with more right after this.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannons understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
In 1926, Australia's Penrite Oil Company was established. Almost 90 years of research, development and refining under the harsh Australian conditions has made Penrite Oil what it is today. Precision, performance, reliability and protection. Championship winning products. Trust Penrite.
If you need a new piece of equipment for your workshop, you need Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Hare and Forbes Machinery House have showrooms around Australia and New Zealand that will have you browsing for hours. See the largest range of industrial and workshop DIY tools. You will be greeted by friendly, helpful staff, and you can buy from anywhere online at machineryhouse.com.au. Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Find your closest store at machineryhouse.com.au.
Well, Fletch, I must say, you're looking very much Don Johnson, Miami Vice today.
Or maybe even Tom Selleck.
Well, possibly Tom Selleck, but I do think Miami Vice is more your scene.
Thank you very much. I paid $25 for this jacket.
Well, it's a very good buy, and I must say, you look very handsome in it.
Thank you very much. Talking of goodbye, it's like there's Fletch. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
He talked about Miami Vice. Well, let me give you some advice. You've got to get to this museum because you know what I love about this whole place? Even if you're not a car person, if you've stumbled across this episode, I'm not a car guy, you don't have to be because everyone has a memory. Whether it's a mother's car, a father's car, a grandparent's car, an uncle's car, we all go back somewhere and remember a car when we were a kid. They've all got a special meaning. This is an emphasis of an era from the United States, but it all stands for the same stuff. Whether it's an American car, an Australian car, takes you back into the time capsule.
It does indeed, and the emotional attachment that we get from people that visit us is not necessarily tied to the cars. It's tied to that era. It's tied to that time of their life when growing up at home and the family was around them and they have wonderful memories. So it's not all about the cars. It's certainly more in line with what people walk in and experience from that time frame. Hard to put into words. It really is an emotional thing. But you need to come here to experience it firsthand. We can talk all day about what you're looking at and what you see, but it's the feeling that you walk in the door. That's what's important.
So now it's time, in today's show, to go and see just some of Glenn's favourite classic cars. OK, Glenn, this stunning 1961 Chrysler Imperial. What can you tell us about it?
Out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. This is called the Art Deco model. Very rare car here in Australia. Quite rare in America. Very rarely seen. As you can see, it's magnificent in its shape and design. Just the 1 year. Beautiful.
One of the only cars, too, to have its headlights and tail lamps on the outside of the body in this era.
Very true, very true. They're called suspended headlights and tail. And also, Fletch, square steering wheel.
For easy in and easy out.
Correct, absolutely.
For entry and exiting.
An odd piece, but remarkable for that year.
In all its glory, have a look at it. I mean, the styling of this car, the lines of the car, the windswept screen, the stainless steel insert in the turret as well. I mean, they just never really knew when to stop, did they?
No, this was an era where it was just all go. And keep in mind, this is an unrestored original car. So what you see is how it came off the showroom floor, which is remarkable in itself.
Nice nights from Carlisle too, and you can check out Carlisle on a Fletch tour.
I'll be on a Fletch tour, so why not?
Jeez, won't that be a lot of fun? Glenn, 1959 Impala, what a sensational car. There's just something about a car with a colour-coded interior to match the exterior.
Absolutely. 59 Impala, two-tone outside, two-tone inside, the flagship of Chevrolet, still one of the most sought-after cars today, and a huge, big quality car here in Australia. Everyone loves the 59.
I've said it before on the show too, Chevrolet being at the bottom of the rung in terms of the tree of GM, but yet still producing such opulent lines, outstanding features, plenty of options. These things were limos all day long.
They were the family car. This one's a two-door coupe, which wasn't so much family inclined, but I mean, just a marvellous motor car, considering it was a base model.
Huge on stainless steel, gotta love the back. The cat's eye lenses in the rear there for 1959, the way the trunk comes down, shape all day long. Back in a time where the designers just went berserk. They blatantly wasted all the resources that they had because they could.
They did, mate. 59 was probably the penultimate year for the four big egos going hammer and tong to see who could outdo each other. And as you said, the cat's eye is a one-off. Yeah. There's no other... We'll never ever see another car with that sort of rear-end styling. It's just magnificent.
It's good when we look at our eras too, because they made good cars in 59. 69 then was another good era as well. A decade apart, yet the cars transformed so radically, but they still kept that American tradition in just so many ways.
They did. Like 1959 was your classic family cruisers, whether they be coupes, four doors, hard tops, pillarless, still the family cruiser. 69, you're right in the heart of the muscle time. Yeah. The big engines, were all that mattered. Didn't matter what the seats were like or the interior, no one cared. Yeah. Horsepower ruled in 69.
That's the one. If you had a big living room car, a big lounge room car, a big four-door pillarless sedan, and it happened to have 350 horsepower, that was a bonus. Glenn, this is the type of car that almost makes you laugh because it's not ridiculous, but it is so overdone. It is incredible.
Well, this is the Oldsmobile 98, top of the range for Olds, and as you said, overdone. I don't know if there's anything physically more possible they could fit onto this car.
The beautiful paint, the metallic burgundy, an incredible paint scheme, and again depicted by lots of bling. The stainless steel down the sides. We have our chrome embellishments up on the fenders that replicate rockets. Everything was designed for space travel at air flight, wasn't it?
1958, the pinnacle of space travel and the freedom and the opportunities that up there offered, and the Americans grabbed it with two hands. And whilst most people couldn't afford a space trip, they dreamed about it and had the opportunity to buy a car that had some embellishments that meant they were in their own rockets. It's a wonderful time.
It was, and I mean the car, I guess, in all its puffiness with metal. I mean, it's so broad. I mean, it's 20 feet long. It's 6 feet wide, and a couple of tons, absolutely. And there's not one square inch that hasn't been looked upon. Even at the top of the plenum chamber there, with the air vents there, of course, solid die cast and chrome. The mirror, sensational over there on the driver's or the passenger's fender. The rear quarters, the stainless steel down the sides, I mean, it just keeps going. I mean, it's got its own postcode, this thing.
It would be a lovely car to roll into a scrapyard because it's going to be worth some serious money. You imagine in the old day, these old cars, and there would have been some, Fletch. I mean, this is a lovely example, but Again, we're talking an era in time where people didn't keep these cars expecting that 50 or 60 years later they'd still be round. So, I mean, in terms of the amount of steel and chrome and stainless, you won't ever see that again.
These things used to be compacted into a 4-foot square cube because there was an era in the United States where the scrap value was more than the trade-in.
That's absolutely correct. And there was always a demand for good quality scrap metal. And these cars, as you know, it's very good quality.
We look at the interior, again colour-coded to the rest of the car. The swept speedometer, again a dashboard that's almost, well, it's ahead of its time, isn't it?
It's NASA. It's NASA 1950s. I'm sure that the guys that sat down in that design room said, let's create a spaceship and call it a motor car. Yeah. Because everything was about that, the limitless opportunity of space travel on the road. Yep. And so we're very fortunate that era in time, we had some of the biggest egos really going hard at each other, trying to outdo each other for a very short period. So that's what we're seeing today, the outcome of those ego battles.
American iron. You have to love it. And you'll see plenty of it when you join us on a Fletch tour in 2016. Have a look at this. You deserve a Fletch tour. See the amazing Ford, GM and Chrysler Nationals at Carlisle events, along with museums and private collections in beautiful Pennsylvania, USA. Then it's the Motown city of Detroit and its region, taking in more die-hard stuff with incredible history. Rounding off with the Woodward Dream Cruise, the largest moving car cruise in the world.
One of the best things about a Fletch tour is you're really looked after. It's something I've always wanted to do.
Very well organised. The tour company that put it together was great.
Go to classicrestos.com.au and click on the Fletch Tours icon for more information. Hope you're enjoying today's show. Back with more after this.
Every weekend around Australia, motoring enthusiasts get together to share their passion for cars and bikes. It's a passion that brings us together. All sorts of people, all sorts of cars and bikes, from the classics of today to the classics of tomorrow. At Shannons, we understand enthusiasts, so when it comes to insurance, it's got to be Shannons. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you need a new piece of equipment for your workshop, you need Hare and Forbes Machinery House. From a garage jack through to a lathe, Hare and Forbes has the range. And Hare and Forbes Machinery House are Australian owned, established since 1930. You will be greeted by friendly, helpful staff, and you can buy from anywhere online at machineryhouse.com.au. Hare and Forbes Machinery House. Find your closest store at machineryhouse.com.au.
Penrite, Australian made, family owned and operated. Make premium quality engine and racing oils, warranty approved coolants, automatic transmission and manual gear oils, a complete range of engine and fuel additives, heavy duty and industrial products for every application. Visit penriteoil.com for more information. Penrite, Australian made for Australian conditions since 1926.
Okay, we walked through another door. We're in another part of the shed now. What do we got here?
Well, this is what we call our fun room, some of the modified stuff. So right behind is one of the big girls of the fleet, 1967 Mercury Park Lane. This is a coupe, 20-foot long, two-door, with a 410 Marauder, automatic, all original inside, but it's had a beautiful champagne repaint on the outside.
Big wheels just set it off too.
Big set of 20s on the back and a set of 18s on the front. Just, a nice-looking car.
It's amazing, when you think of Park Lane, Marauder, like all the different variances that division of Ford and what they came up with. Just incredible, aren't they?
They are. Mercury's a bit of a favourite of mine because they were so out there. Huge, big motor cars in every aspect. And this is just another example of a later model, in the 60s this one, 1967, 410, you get all the performance and all the creature comforts with it.
It almost didn't make sense for something to be so big that performs so well.
It's a bit of an irony in some respects. You've got a car that's 20 foot long that's designed for comfort, and they've got a massive big 410 Marauder in there, so you get both here. It's marvellous.
Again, it just goes back to an era where everything was so overdone but just done so well.
Nobody cared how much fuel cost. Nobody cared how much cars cost. It was all about what can I get. The 60s were the time for the big engines, so why not?
I remember reading a motoring review on one car and it said the front seats could be better, but don't worry about it because you're not in them long enough because you've got to stop and get gas all the time.
Yeah, I imagine, these cars just drink it now. So I imagine back in the day, not much has changed in that regard. The fuel gauges still move as quickly as they did back then.
Absolutely. But it was back in a time too where you could stop and put $1.50 in and bring the needle nearly came up to the F.
Well, Fletch, you get $1.50 for a litre now. We can't complain about that.
Talk about classic restos. Boy, do we have one here. 1955, the first of the Thunderbird, or the baby bird. What a sensational little driver, this one.
Absolutely fantastic. 60 years on the road, the Thunderbirds, and this is the very first. And this particular one you're looking at, it's a nut and bolt resto, so taken down back to its original beauty as it would have been back in the day on the showroom floor.
What an era back in 55 to be able to have bought one of these new.
Marvellous. Hard top convertible. Flick the hard top off and away you go. I mean, you had the options for winter and summer, so really well thought out. Fun car to drive. Nice little 292, gets along, automatic, so easy, but just a beautiful looking car.
Amazing with a lot of these cars too, they never did big mileage, and in a lot of the cases in the United States of America, the cars never left their hometowns where they were sold from their dealers.
Well, Americans don't travel, and nor do their cars. It's bizarre. You talk to some of them over there, and you say, oh, do you get to Los Angeles? No. They're just state-by-state people, and the cars are the same, and you're dead right. Well, and that's why often you see with these cars, when they talk about them being a one-owner car, it's never left the town that it was bought in.
Yeah. Which, to me, I kind of like that. It's almost like a sense of naivety, for the vehicle and the owner. They've just stayed around their hometown, and you hear stories of people buying an original vehicle, but it hasn't got its original engine. They make some inquiries, and they find it in a barn 5 miles away. That would never happen here in Australia.
No, it wouldn't. I mean, I don't know how to explain that. Americans, it's a country geographically like ours, yet we tend to travel. We love going state to state, and for whatever reason, they stay put.
What's the history? What can you tell us about it? Do you know where it first started out?
It's a Texas car, and it was fully restored in Dallas, Texas. So it's what we call a dry car. Very good climate for rust and those issues. So it had a nice life, but it was a little worn in terms of being used and driven and enjoyed. So when we say a nut and bolt resto, you know that this car went back down to the chassis, and anything that needed replacing got replaced. All new chrome, all new glass, brand new interior, but done sympathetically so that it resembles how it did back in the day.
So this Lost in the 50's museum that you've got here, Glenn, it's more than a museum, trust me. You'll find that out when you get here. How often do you open?
Look, if you're looking for that experience and you want to have a sample of 50s Americana, we're open once a month. Just hop on our website, www.lostinthe50s.com.au, or on our Facebook page, Lost in the 50s. It's all there. The dates are laid out for you. You do have to book. You can't walk in. That's part of the mystery of the place. And we only sell a limited amount of tickets, and we do sell out. So be quick, jump on. Hop online or on Facebook, get your booking, and we look forward to seeing you when you come through our doors. And we know and we'll guarantee that you'll walk out with a big smile.
Glenn, on that note, I want to thank you for inviting me back here. I was here about 2 years ago, and the place has changed somewhat, and it's great to be back and feature Lost in the 50s back on Classic Restos. Great to catch up with you. Wealth of information. Every car here has a story, as they all do, and I guess that's a very interesting part of my job, to hear the history of what these cars have been through, and it's so nice to see so many of them preserved in here, out of harm's way. And as you said, in another 50 years from now, they're probably all going to still look the same.
Well, we hope so. And look, it's a mutual thing between you and I. First of all, we're good mates, but second of all, you're the storyteller. And storytellers in our game are equally as important as the collectors. If we don't get the story out through people like yourself and Classic Restos, no one knows. So it's a very important part of what we do. And the legacy that you'll leave behind when we're long gone and people are still watching the old Classic Restos as vintage episodes, they'll get a kick out of that. And I hope they do, because it's not an easy role doing what you do, and the enthusiasts really need to put their hands together for blokes like you, because we don't have a lot of ambassadors out there doing what you do day by day, getting around. God knows how many places you visit in the course of a year, But it's equally as important, the storyteller as the collector. And I mean, it's a good combination. Good mates first, but a storyteller and a collector, it's only one chapter. And we have many more chapters and years to go. So it's been a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much, Glenn.
Thank you, my friend. Good to see you, buddy.
Well, there you go. I hope you've enjoyed just a taste of Lost in the 50's, classic American car museum, located in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia. In the meantime, classicrestos.com.au is the website that you need for the DVD boxed sets of the show, Classic Restos merchandise, contact information on joining us on a Fletch tour, including Route 66, in 2016, along with the major sponsors as well. In the meantime, no matter where you're watching from, as I say at the end of every show, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Classic Restos TV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons Insurance, Penrite Oil, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, and Pace Farm Eggs.